to the point last night where my GraphQL thing is now like fully sorted, and I thought I'd do a little bit of an exploratory into doing the validation properly on query arguments. So there's two types of validation you can obviously do in GraphQL, apart from like the standard schema validation, which comes for free. Say that. There is only really one way of doing it with these validation rules, and they run kind of like schema validation, so it validates against the input, against the like registered schema, and that's kind of how it's supposed to work. But I want to use it for query validation so that your arguments are correctly validated, so that you don't pass. It obviously has some kind of type protection, but so that you don't pass like a date that's in the future, for example, one that's in the past. And or for mutations. So if you are trying to mutate some data, we'll run the validation at the query level rather than everywhere else. Fortunately, don't need to worry about that one because I'm not doing mutations by GraphQL yet. I'm doing REST for that. So I was looking into doing it. I figured it out, but I'm trying to make it work with Fluent Validator now, and I'm having fun doing it. I'm trying to find this like thing, but while I was doing it, I discovered that basically Fluent Validator in C# world is the de facto monopoly on validation. I can't even find another one. Good luck googling another one, man. Home, I've eaten. I've had a lovely pasta dinner. Laura's out with some uni friends, celebrating their results, so they just got back in, I think, or her uni friends just happened to be in the city. Her current uni friends, her like law stuff uni friends, I think they're in Cardiff normally, so they train in for Bristol. That's part of it. I've had my dinner and I've come up here and I've got about an hour before, well, about an hour and a half before Laura comes here, and I'm looking at ways I can build this fucking validation rule builder thing kind of thingamajig. I just can't find a way. I had a cheeky look around at lunchtime to see if I could find any interesting validation frameworks that were on the market, and I couldn't find any. But yeah, so I'm just kind of seeing where I can go with it. At worst, I can just put like a fucking Boolean function, effectively, and then that'll do the trick. But it's not best, is it? Especially because I want it to generate the error message as well. Woo! Otherwise, I've had a pretty good day today. I didn't get much development done, actually. Having said that, I threw together an API for someone very quickly. And started to look at ripping apart some of the bits at the beginning of the process. It's a little bit fiddly. Well, never mind, Laura's just asked for a lift, so it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be. And it's only really complicated because I'm trying to... The problem with having like a product that's live, properly live, and in use, is that you can't just rip it apart and start again or re-architect things. Like the API has to continue to live the way that it lives, and all that kind of stuff. You've got to take into account all this versioning. The database is in the state it currently is. We can't just wipe the database and start again. You got to either migrate it. If you don't have that data at all, then it's tough shit. Discovered that we should have probably, well, it would have been so much easier if we were sending a certain piece of information to a third party, which we are sending it to a third party, but we're kind of like sending it here, and there's a little Boolean flag that says you can save it on the thing here, and I want it on this thing here, and I've got to do so much work because that Boolean flag wasn't set to true. God damn. It's stuff like that, really. It's just trying to work around the existing platform. I don't want to change it too much because I still want it to more or less work, you know, without at the end of the day I don't want to rewrite it all just to make this thing work. But yeah, so anyway, I'm having fun with that, but we mainly did some testing on this thing that we weren't expecting to work, and it worked, so that's good. We were a bit nervous about something that's coming up at the end of next month, and we're not going to be on the project to support it. So we like simulated it happening effectively, and it Gucci. Oh god, the best part about this is if me doing this now basically means that I lose an entire hour of programming and a parking space right outside the house, which is uber annoying, more annoying than you could probably imagine. Because normally if you leave and have to come back at like 8 o'clock at night, you got no chance, mate. But if you like parking at normal times, like after work, fine. I don't know where everyone is at like 6, but they all kind of arrive at 7. You know, the road is legitimately empty at 6, 7 packed. So not really sure what's going on there. But yeah, but if I pick her up now, she's less likely to want to lift or being picked up from uni tomorrow. So that's why. And in fairness, I don't yet have a idea yet of how to do this validation thing. I think I might have to just go with a function, just like a dumbass function. And if you can't keep pooped, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bed. I'm absolutely pooped. It's going to be hard waking up, but we've got to do it. We've got to power through. My lord, I slept like an absolute fucking baby last night. I went straight through both alarm sets. My morning one, so my 2 o'clock one, my midnight midnight one, I don't remember at all. My 6 o'clock one, I remember sitting up and being like, oh fuck, I missed the other one. I should get out of bed now. And then I remember waking up at about 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock when Laura started hair drying her hair because she had to go to uni today. This is kind of the problem with this sleeping pattern. It's really difficult to get into in the sense that in this week, there's 2 nights where I slept all the way through. This is the first week I've joined on it, obviously, but then when you do that, it knocks you for an entire day. Like, you basically start, you keep falling back, basically. Now, when I first started this new sleeping pattern, I tried it for a little bit, for about a couple of weeks. It didn't really work out for me, then I gave up, and then I realised that I need to kick myself, and I need to start getting some more fucking work done. So I started it again, and I'm trying to resist the urge to be like, oh, this isn't working. I'm going to try and stick at it for like a month or so, and if that doesn't work, then I will switch back to the one where I have 1 big sleep and 3 naps rather than 2 little sleeps and then 2 big naps. Yeah, that shit's not good. But it's just resilience, basically. And even if I'm not active, even if I'm not doing it permanently, I'm still getting a lot of work done. So I shouldn't see it as a failure every time I sleep. I'd just be like, okay, right, fucked, reset it, get back, start again, carry on, don't give up. Having said that, I've just given up on something. I've been looking at a way of building a validation framework for query arguments in GraphQL, as I said yesterday, and I've been thinking about it for a while now, and I've just started to look at it, and I've just tried another route in, and I just can't figure out a route in, and I'm backing out. I've written it down as like an idea of things to do. What I can do is I can write independent validation rules. So let me show you what I've got. So previously I just had validation rules like this, where I get the value out and then if it's less than fucking 0, then throw an exception. But that's done at the point of resolution, so it's resolving the argument at that point, and that isn't as good to me because, for the simple friggin' reason that as soon as it's doing that, Jamie, speak your words. The problem is, effectively, that at that point it's throwing as a resolution error rather than a validation error. There's no way of throwing a validation error, effectively. So what I want to do is throw it at the query argument level. So the other argument that I have, which is a bit more aggressive than a limit, although I might actually throw another one of these together as a limit, is the cursor. So the cursor is a base64 encoded string. It needs to be base64 encoded. Don't give me a string that's not base64 encoded, otherwise I'll throw exceptions at you. What I was doing was I was going to write the validation inside the here. Obviously I'll handle the exception and throw you a nice error. In the errors is the resolution point, but I want to throw it at the validation point. I'm going to use something called an iValidation rule, and then this does the validation at this point and it checks against arguments. So I've created an argument that only takes base64 encoded strings, and this validation rule will apply to all of those arguments. So here, this is a query argument string graph type, but this bad boy is just one of those. It's basically the same thing, but I'm using types to do that shit. So I can do it like that, and that's alright, and I can build the validation rules I need. But what I wanted was some kind of way of writing it in line, where I could be like, I want a string, and I want these rules to apply to it. Because you can imagine a world, that limit, I don't want it to go lower than 0. What if I wanted a higher limit? If I create a validation rule called, like, minimum value, or something like that, I don't know, I can't think of what I'd call it off the top of my head. But if I created an argument that was like, you have to be between these values, would that have to be different to the validation rule that's less than? How many different argument types am I going to have to support and build? I was like, can I build a dynamic one? And I spent a decent amount of time looking into that. Just trying to figure it out. Spent a decent amount of time looking into that, and about a couple of hours, and I can't figure it out. And I'm backing away from it because there's no real point. Like, at worst, what is this? This is just query arguments. So it's like doing a REST endpoint and then validating the arguments in the query. What do you do at max there? You test whether or not it's a GUID. I've already got that. You check whether or not it's the right format. Already got that. You might have validation on whether or not it's base64 encoded, or whether or not it's lower than or greater than a certain value. But do you do anything else? Probably not. Stop trying to be a smart ass and just do it the easy way. You aren't going to use it. Yagni. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm backing away and I'm just going to tidy up. I did this as like a proof of concept, so I'm going to tidy this up. And I might throw one in for like a limit because it's going to be quite regular that if I do accept inputs, I'm not going to want them to be less than 0. Or 0. Yeah. So that's my plan. That's my plan of attack. Back down, write it away, go off. Now, if I ever did mutations, it'd be a different story. But I'm not, so fuck it. As I sat down to do some work, I was like, this is the kind of thing, it started to dawn on me that this is the kind of thing that I get annoyed at work, where people who were there before me spent a significant amount of time building a load of shit that they really didn't need to build, because it already exists on the market. And while I can't find this on the market, it doesn't exist on the market. Well, yeah, so they spent a load of time building things that they didn't need to build, like their own implementation of N-Service Bus. Absolutely relevant. N-Service Bus and Mass Transit both exist. Use them, they're great. A lot of better people than you have built them before. Same thing with a Git versioner. MVC framework, would you believe? Loads of different things that you just don't need to build because other people have already built it. And, more importantly, it doesn't add value to your business. Writing one of these doesn't add value to my business apart from the fact that I could write a blog post about it, you know? So, back the fuck away. A bit carried away, so now I'm running late to pick up Laura. The length I'm going to is to build a base class, effectively, that allows you to have a validatable argument. And it basically, so you've got your argument type, so you have to define the type of your argument, but then there's a base validation rule that I've created which basically takes arguments like that and validates them. So it's kind of, I'm basically doing that because the normal framework is a bitch to test. But I'm running late to pick up Laura and I need to bounce. I want to talk very briefly, before I go, about this hoodie. So this hoodie, every like 2 years I get a blue hoodie for Christmas because my old hoodie gets battered. And for the past 2 years I've had a dark blue, like a dark navy blue hoodie, Fred Perry one, every single year for the past like 4 or 6 years, something like that, ludicrous. This year they stopped doing that, so we got this one instead, which is like a lighter blue. And I find it's more difficult to wear because I think it's more of a colour. Like the other one was so dark that it just kind of like went with everything, if you know what I mean. But this one doesn't go with some stuff because it's a bit too blue. It's a bit too light blue, you know? It goes really fucking well with pink. God damn. I think it might be because of all the colours, because my old one, like the zip, like blends in. It's but this is like a white zip that sticks out. It's got these little like rope things, and then the hood is a different colour. So maybe it's because it's not just one solid dark colour. That's why it's harder to match things. Maybe that's why. Right. So pissing about. Again, I'm well chuffed with that, guys. I've done my argument validation stuff. It's pretty good. It's not like perfect because the validation rule is different to the argument itself, but they're linked in the sense that the validation rule, because the argument is a different type to the value that it stores, and then the validation rule is completely segregated. So the validation rule has to know what types it can validate and the type of the data. And it's not, you can't just do that automatically, and it's really annoying, but it means that you have to, inside the base 64 validation rule, it knows of the existence of the base 64 encoder string argument. And it knows that that argument stores strings. Which I know sounds like, yeah, well obviously it does, but it'd be much better if it could just be effectively the argument itself, and the argument would self-validate. That would be way better. But there is no way of doing that. But now, you can throw invalid data at it, and it will tell you every single thing that's invalid, because it will roll through all the arguments, stack them all up, and then spit you out the error. Whereas previously I was effectively just throwing rendering errors, runtime errors, and letting it handle that as an exception. And I've just realised as well that the ID graph type doesn't enforce GUIDs. So you can just pass whatever the fuck you want in there, which is a pain in the ass. But it means now I can just throw in another GUID validator. So I've now got base64 encoded validator and a bounded integer validator, so it checks to make sure it's within a certain range. And I'm going to throw together a GUID validator as well, and then I'm done. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not like it took forever. It's not perfect, but it's not like it took forever, but it did the job. That's all it needs to do. It's somewhat extensible as well. Right. Well, I've been upstairs programming. I've always been downstairs watching TV, so I'm going to go downstairs and bond. This is a sad state of affairs. Laura's staying up later than me. That never happens. I don't even feel particularly tired, but I can't, just because I've had one lion doesn't mean I can just go back to not waking up early. You get more work done when you wake up early, even if you sleep in 2 days a week. Laura's started to decorate downstairs, so she's like painting the wood and whatnot. So we've moved everything away from the walls, including the Wi-Fi router. And doing so meant unplugging it and moving it, obviously. And it seems to have factory reset itself. This Google Wi-Fi thing, and I've reset, and it knows the old one's still there, but it's reset, so it can't go back to its old state. So I had to recreate a new state, and now the app won't let me delete the old network. So I've got two networks with the same name. One of them just doesn't work, and the other one does. What's going on? So yeah, it's reset all the settings. It's literally created a new Wi-Fi network with the same name and the same password, so everything's reconnected. So it's not a problem there. But it's lost the guest network, and it's lost all the DNS settings and whatnot I had set up. What a pain in the ass. But yeah, Laura's decorating downstairs. I am working up here. I'm about to start working now. Sort the Wi-Fi out again. Woke up early last night. Freaked out because my alarm made an alarm that I'd never heard before. But I then went to bed this morning at 4:30 and I didn't wake up till 7:30. I always find it really difficult to wake up on time in the morning when I don't have well, to be fair, even in the week, I sleep through both of my alarms and then it's Laura's alarm that wakes me up and I dive downstairs to go and have a shower. But yeah, I don't have the same drive at the weekend, I'm assuming because there isn't all that much to do after that. So yeah, Laura woke me up at 7:30, we got up and had some breakfast, started decorating. Because I had an extra long sleep in the morning, I'm not going to nap in the afternoon. I'll keep my nap in the evening now. The theory is that you can swap a 30-minute nap for an extra hour and a half in bed. That's the theory. But yeah, I'm going to go and offer Laura a cup of tea before I sit back down into some work. I have been building this screen, which is showing repositories and a load more button, and that's my paged jobber. And I'm just trying to figure out how to, because this thing here is a link to the external repository. I'm trying to figure out where to put this remote thing to signify whether or not it's remote or whether it's linked already to the platform. It doesn't look good, but I found that little corner link, because all of the other buttons are way too big and I don't want you to go to a different website unless you really have to flick settings or whatever. But yeah, it's a bit of a faff. But yeah, man, it's going good. So yeah, I finished off the API gateway, got that merged up, and I'm just working on the front end, and I've built this entire page. Going good. And as soon as I've got that load more button working and all of the information on the left, I'll merge that in, and then I need to start worrying about saving or picking the settings for the right one. And then I did a proof of concept piece of work a couple of weeks ago about what data it was I needed. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a somewhat complicated screen because I'm trying to do as much of it as I can without the user having to do it. So if you've done some things, I can infer state, and if you've done other things, I can't, etc. So yeah, it's fun. I'm going to offer Laura a cup of tea. Okay, now I've figured out what I need to do here to make this look good. I know exactly how I'd do it in Razor. Let's figure out how to do it in Angular. Oh dear. God damn it. I do like Angular, but I don't know much about it. I'm literally learning as I go. Can't wait for Blazor to just take over, man. That's going to be the dream. So I was having trouble with. I've got a plug in here. My old Chromecast plug here. I was having trouble with this. So I had it by the side of my bed, and then I plugged in my headphones, and then realised that my headphones didn't charge. I took them to work and they were still low. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I brought them into here and then used my Surface plug instead. And then I realised that this plug is actually really low power. It's like 1 amp. So it like doesn't charge things effectively. But it confused me because the Nexus charges on it. And the Nexus is obviously a fucking tablet. And I'm like, if you can charge a tablet, yes, it charges slowly. But if you can charge a tablet, then you can charge headphones, right? But anyway, so I ditched the plug, but I kept using the wire because the wire is quite a good long wire. You know what I mean by a good wire? You know what I mean? No, it turns out that wire can only take 1 amp as well, and it won't charge my headphones. But if I swap it out for another wire, it will. But again, confused me because it will charge the Nexus, not me. Confusing, man. And there we go, boys. Now I'm just going to make this load more button work. These things look bare, but they won't be as bare when you have real ones that are linked. I just don't know what data to show there. I don't think I need to show any data there at all, to be honest with you. Let's get this load more button working. It's going to be fun because I'm going to be adding to this list, not... This is the first time, this is paged data, and I'll be adding to the list of edges rather than creating a new set. Instead, I don't want to go to the next page along, I want to kind of append it. So that's what I'm going to do. What I struggle with to no end is what happens when the screen shrinks. And then the text starts clipping over the side and the boxes are changing in size, but the font isn't. As I finished it, I inevitably went to resize the screen and it all went to shit. So I've redesigned it, just made it work basically for external repositories. And then I'm just going to click where's my notes on this? It is, got to figure out whether or not I can create it before I do the linking and whatnot. But the paging works great. But yeah, so quickly have a look at what data I get back from the API call to get these things, and just see if there's anything slightly more interesting than just the bloody name that I can display, like a description or something. I don't fucking know. Just anything. The idea is you select one, it brings up a form onto the right hand side. If it's new, you can fill out that form. If not, then it's all the details that we've got stored for that repository. I'm a little bit sick of this though now, to be honest with you, so I'm probably going to look at putting the washing away soon. Yeah, all I get is metadata, so nothing useful for the user. Oh well, fuck it. I can't be asked to make that look any prettier. I've wasted enough time and I'm sick of it. Yeah, work for... Don't mind me. I'm just lounging around. 7 hours of programming today. 3.5 in the morning and then 3.5 again in the afternoon. Slash spread out throughout the day. Not bad. I went for my nap after and at 5 o'clock like normal. And what was weird about the nap, well, it was a 30-minute nap as per usual, but woke up and for dinner we had breakfast. We had a fry up. So we had like bacon, sausages, an old English fry up, you know. And that's really disorientating. Because now I've just had breakfast. I've woken up. I have some breakfast, and now I'm going to go back to bed. But it feels like lunchtime. So I'm going to wake up, and then it's going to feel like the afternoon, and then I'll go to bed, and then it'll feel like the evening while I'm at work, and then in the afternoon at work it's going to feel like it's the morning. What am I going to do? So that is some crazy shit. Yeah, there's that. So I'm going to head off to bed, and I'm going to hopefully wake up in the afternoon, and I'm going to carry on working through some stuff. I've got my UI set for listing it out now in the first place. I need to start worrying about saving it effectively, so take the input and then punt it into the back end. Need to figure out where it makes sense for me to focus my energy, because should I do the back end first and then the front end? Probably, just so that I can test I've got the right data and I can get the front end to sort it all out for me. But we'll see. We shall see. I might get the API running. But I've also been doing some outreach stuff. I need to do a bit more of that blogging stuff as per usual, but I'm enjoying programming again. I should also point out, this is Laura's handiwork. The roof was always white, but this top bit here was the same colour as this bit. And then we're going to paint the rest of it. We've got to paint the woodwork and then the rest of it. Yeah, so that's that. Oh. I'm going to end the video here, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure what's happened in it. I don't know what happens in any of these videos anymore, except programming. Good, isn't it? I'll catch you later. This week, bearing in mind I didn't wake up 2 days this week. I missed 2 days of work, proper work. And I was out in the evenings as well, some days as well, which I'm going to be next week as well. 28 hours I've clocked to my project. 28 hours. On top of, oh my gosh, basically a 70-hour week. Damn. This week I'm going to aim for an 80-hour week. I could do it as well. There's some evenings where I'm out. I'm out on Tuesday and Wednesday, but I've got all the weekend. 80 hours is doable, man. 80 hours is doable. Fucking lunatic.